All right. So today is the day that we go over the current state of the planning issue. Right now, we're planning for 14.4. We're still in the same sort of situation that we were in when we planned 14.3, which is we don't expect to have any dev work. So it's kind of open floor to really start thinking about what we might want to do strategically. So the SBOM in composition analysis research, perfect sort of scenario, right? We've got plenty of time right now to start thinking about things like that. So that makes sense. So in order to do this, let's just start from the top and work our way down. I will also share the issue itself, even though it's somewhat bare at the moment.
Apple needs to not have a touchpad because cats.
What's great is their paws work too. You know, they work on the touching, sliding gesture part. There you go. I have 3 cats and their hair gets everywhere. It's fun. All right.
Oh, yeah. We have 2 dogs, cats, etc. Bunny, like, yeah, no, there's fur is a given.
Definitely win. The bunny is extra. 3 cats and a dog over here. Okay, so start with composition analysis. So as I mentioned a second ago, the SBOM feature here, also noted in our agenda. So you're saying it would be nice to get research. Yesterday, I asked a question. I don't know if it was in this issue or a different one, trying to understand what type of research you were thinking of. You know,
so, I mean, SBOM is not novel. So I feel like we could go about this any way that y'all wanted to, but I'm almost thinking we could do a new dependency list page that caters to SBOM. SPDX and Cyclone DX are the first 2 formats I want to support. So we could make an imaginary mock-up of what we believe the page should look like at that point in time, and then go to some of our more regulated customers, probably medical, government, and banking would be ideal, and say, hey, you know, we know that everyone's currently interested in being able to have an SBOM. Right now, you know, we have our own list of dependencies, but that doesn't follow these 2 standards, which are the first ones we're going to follow. We were thinking of adding this download button here, removing the vulns off the page and linking to the dependency list, you know, like just going through it with them and then being like, does this meet your needs? Was there something missing here? Could you show this to your compliance person? I mean, we could do more research if we wanted to, but I think mainly me and who's ever designing it, we have to like look at the Cyclone DX and be like, okay, right now I know we have all of these fields. So we would just say, hey, you're going to get this in a zip, or you're going to get it in a CSV, or you're going to get it in a JSON, whatever the approved format for that thing is. And then here's the columns we're going to have to add. Like, does this make you meet your desires, or is there something glaringly missing here?
Okay, so it's basically a problem validation, but we have a decent idea of the types of things that would be required.
Because there's standards and regulations, we have an idea of like all the columns, but the question is like, when we present the columns, are they going to be like, I need to be able to search this column, or I need to be able to sort this column or filter this column? Like, that's the thing I don't know. And so I think if we were able to start it off with, hey, we know we needed to add these columns, here's the mock-up, and then suddenly have them say, but I wanted to filter or whatever.
Right. Okay. I think that's.
Are you, is this going to be supportive of our packages that are discovered as part of a container scanning job, or is it still going to be limited to just dependencies?
So, I mean, right now, because y'all are not sending them in as a dependency scanner JSON, you would not be included with the MVC, but we're going to have to figure out what y'all are missing or need to send in addition for somebody to be able to opt in and say, I want you to consume both types of artifacts. Because right now we do it consumption based. Like this is not off the API or anything.
So we would like to start storing SBOM of operating system packages in GitLab's database, and it would be great if we could surface those up as part of the SBOM somewhere as well. So
We should probably have a separate conversation about that. We are not going to be storing SBOMs in the database. And we did pick very specific reasons for that because we want to have it as part of your release artifact and a build artifact. And we don't necessarily want you to have to merge it into main. So we want any time that you build an MR for us to be able to build an SBOM specific to that build.
yeah, that makes sense.
And so what we're doing is we're going to be parsing the artifacts. So we're going to have to make sure you have all the data that's necessary in the artifacts. And we can, once we tell you what we're doing, we can say, hey, would this also work? Can we consume it out of your artifacts as well? Do you have these fields? And so I can't do the work for you during the MVC, but I can verify that you have all the data we're going to need and how we're moving forward, so that hopefully then we could add a checkbox. I want you to consume both artifacts, you know, after MVC. Would that work for you?
Yeah, that should work. Let's sync up on that some more separately, but I think that would work.
Because yeah, for the what I'm going to call the workspace searchable SBOM, which is not really an SBOM, but people are going to misuse the term, so I'm just going to lean into it. I agree with you, that should be in the database, and we should have the dependency list page use the database. So I'm on board with you for that. But that's more of a reactionary, I want to search type situation, as opposed to I actually need a build artifact that is part of the build artifact, you know, thing during a build. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, well, I think we have enough for that, enough understanding for that one anyway. So the next one you had on was, you said was related to SBOM.
yeah, once we figure out what columns and stuff we're going to add, remove, blah, 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 that's going to necessitate changing those other pages. So the outcome of us deciding we need to add columns X and Y and column Z is extraneous is going to impact visually how people see the dependency list page. And at that point, I also think, like, if we have time, once we know how we're changing the dependency list page for kind of continuity of patterning and look, that we know the license list page is garbage right now. So we should just redo that while we're there.
Is there a issue, or I assume not, since it's not linked? So basically we just need to.
No, it's basically, once we decide what we're doing with the SBOM, I think it's just going to be like, oh shit, we need this column on the dependency list page, and it's not there. So I was thinking I could just make a sub issue in there. I didn't know I didn't know how we wanted to do this. Like, did we want to start with the survey, or did we want to start with the mock-up for SBOM and kind of roll from there? And so I kind of didn't want to do an issue. So whoever is going to take this on, we can have a chit chat, and then I'll make whatever research issue is needed, whether we're going to start with a survey or we're going to start with a mock-up or whatever. And I'll kind of be like, okay, here's the thing, and I expect this to result in X as the next thing, such as adding lots of columns.
Yeah. Probably be a good opportunity to get our researchers' thoughts on this too, because it's kind of a problem validation, but you already have an idea, because like you said, it's a standard. So the design walk.
The problem is we need to support SBOM. The next follow-up problem is, how do we do that in our new DAD?
Okay. Cool. All makes sense. Anything for container security?
Nope, I think we're good to go.
Should we?
For a while.
Yeah.
Did It seems like protect got removed from this.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
I tried to add it back in. Container security is a category in protect, so it's kind of odd to call that out on its own at this point.
Yeah.
So we should probably just delete that entirely, actually. And just cover it under protect.
There you go. So for protect, we could probably start considering the jobs to be done research.
So protect. Well, this is for 14.4. I put in 14.3. I haven't even looked at what's needed in 14.4 yet. Jobs to be done is also probably not top of the list though.
Okay.
Assuming we finish everything that we planned in 14.3, which I don't know that we will, but if we do finish all of that out, then we're going to want to start looking at showing policy history and refining the policy approval process.
Yeah, there are two, I think, stretch issue in this milestone that I don't think I will finish it. So one of them is like, I think redesign the pages for the drawer. We want to change it to a more email list. That's a slightly bigger one. I think that will definitely move over. And another one is the history. So these two I currently have in my head.
Yep. Yeah, that would be accurate, assuming we don't finish. There'll be a lot to finish out all of that in 14.3. So I'm assuming that's going to roll over into 14.4.
Okay.
The jobs to be done research in my mind is just like, it's a good thing to do. It's just a lower priority compared to getting the designs that we need to keep development going.
Yeah, but the cool thing about the jobs is because it's a higher level research effort, we don't have to bog a designer down with that. We could get our researcher and you to pair up to get that done. Whereas then Camellia can just sort of follow along to pop in and out to add her thoughts. You know, it won't take much, shouldn't take much of her time.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, for UX research, that's fine if they're able to do that, if they've got the bandwidth. I mean, we also need to revisit personas because our list of security personas isn't complete and doesn't really cover protect very well at the moment.
Those researchers are actually very similar because they're still going to be problem validation oriented. So he might be able to tackle two birds with one stone, but ultimately we'll let, I think his name is Michael, decide how he wants to do it. But yeah, I guess starting with personas probably would make sense. If you want to update those. Okay, cool. Anything else on protect side? Michael?
Yeah,
Dev,
so
SAS?
I haven't added anything to the table yet, but I'm currently putting together an epic that will feed into this. But basically, it's just focused on the scan configuration audit. So we're doing a few UX scorecards around our current state. Then we'll be doing some audit work around all the different configurations and why things are the way they are and such. And then looking at the workflows and stuff too. I haven't had a chance to go through all this with Derek yet. So once he's back in the office and we have a chance to touch base, I'll start filling some of this in here.
That works. And Andy, Matt, and well, Beck's not here.
We just got to kind of like the framing of our design roadmap, moving from viable to complete. So we got themes in there. I linked this document, a Word document there. which kind of roughs out the scope of each theme. And the idea is if we complete all of these themes strategically, we will be in the complete category by July 2022, if they're implemented as well. So that's kind of where we're at now. The idea is that we can then pick off these larger efforts and design them in unison, and like end to end. So that will probably be working on, it's TBD, but probably like vulnerability grouping is in there. Aggregation, just had some thoughts on that. So a lot more of the vulnerability management workflows, and getting those to a nice, consistent place with the product.
Okay. And you have, it looks like you've got a container issue.
Yeah, I'm going to make issues for each theme, which will then have their own feature issues, which will be related. So then we can just put the themes in the vulnerability management needs, along with any of these like extra stuff, right?
Okay. And once you get those, can you just add them to the table?
Sure.
Cool. I think that's essentially it, but just also wanted to remind everyone, all designers anyway, that there is there are 3 OKRs for Becca, Camellia, and Andy. So I added those to the table in case you missed it in our team OKR tracking issue. We technically have a couple more months, but some of them are for the evaluations. So for Becca, she just needs to do the work with her group product designer on any recommendations. She's got a lot less work because she's already done the evaluation. Camellia, you'll be needing to do the heuristic evaluation with someone.
Yeah, but it's Daniel. Like I will
Okay.
start next week.
Okay, cool. And then Andy, I added you to the MR review OKR thing. I don't think it'll take very long. I think it's just to evaluate how you review MRs and then report back or something.
I think we're waiting for guidelines on how to evaluate
Okay.
MRs.
Okay.
Maybe that's probably gonna be last minute because as we
I put the
just
delivery
change.
by 14.5. Yeah, I know.
They'll change it after I do the review, and then I'll have to find another issue to review.
Yes, I've heard the complaint.
It's feedback.
It's feedback, right? Sorry, not a complaint. Complaint is so negative. All right, that's all we've got that I can think of. Do any of you have anything that you would like to talk about? Oh, you know what? I lied. There is this issue, the research issue. So I think you've all probably heard me kick and scream enough about this. I did talk to David, and David handed it off to Hillary, told her to look at
Who
it.
then handed it off to all of us to look at it.
Is that what happened? Okay, I kind of thought that might happen, but the point of me telling him was because it's oh well, whatever. So the just to reiterate what I've sort of mentioned in some of the comments, this is higher level strategic stuff that we could get our UX researcher involved in. So he'll be able to help us out with solution validation and any of the standard problem validation interviewing stuff that you all do in terms of facilitating, is my script good? Did I miss something? Should I ask this in a different way? Right. He'll be able to answer that type of stuff. But this issue specifically is more about anything that is higher level, longer standing research, longitudinal type stuff, something he could really dig into for a month or two or whatever in order to really find out some depth anything related for secure and protect. So that's why I was saying that a job's to be done in persona research. That's perfect for a UXR to dig into. Is there anything like that that we could add into this table?
I mean, we sort of already know some of the overarching stuff, and there's already backlog stuff that research was done on. We just don't have enough humans to implement. So, for example, people complain about false positives, which in most cases are not actually false positives, but that's a whole different story. So there's like the grouping work. There's the work about auto closing things. There's the work about going and utilizing SAST as a methodology or other things as a methodology to confirm if we're actually using impacted functions in dependency scanning, not just are you using a impacted dependency. So like we know overarching things of what people want from a how do we faster triage, how do we get smarter stuff. We want knowledge articles, which is Matt integrating in like the partner, the training partner. So like we have a ton of things that are all waiting for us. We just lack enough humans to keep up with all of the research findings and designs.
Okay.
I mean, if y'all want to dig into the compliance persona more, because honestly, compliance should be part of secure and protect, but that's a whole different issue. To see if there's anywhere that there's a definitive overlap beyond license compliance, just to make sure we're aware that could solidify that overlap a little bit more. But then it gets into the weird gray area because it's spread between multiple teams.
Right. And I don't know if this researcher was going to be dedicated to us or if he was going to work cross teams anyway. I think that they were expecting him to be dedicated to us, but if we don't have anything for him to work on, he will not be dedicated to us.
I mean, Sam, Matt, if you disagree, like
To work on. I mean, this one, the solution validation, that should be starting now. I mean, 14.3 is a pretty tight time frame. We were already started into that. So we've got, less than a month to close out that solution validation. I would be hoping that they would be helping, do what they normally do. What Holly used to do was help vet our screeners and methodology and help, route things to get participants recruited if we needed them, or, obviously we've only got a month, so we may be limited as to how much we can do, but I'd be expecting them to help with that in at least this month.
Yeah, and that is definitely something that is still part of their responsibility. The catch with this particular person is he just started, so he's still onboarding. So
yeah, I think the solution validation is almost shaped there with like description and the main question we want to answer, and probably we will use usertesting.com, so we don't really need a screener of stuff. So I'm quite okay. Like Michael, I think that's our researcher, is onboarding, and I will mainly lead this one. So it shouldn't be a problem that we finish it in 14.3.
Okay. Yeah, but going forward, that is definitely one of their responsibilities to assist us in those types of things. But as a primary part of their job, it would be more akin to stuff like this, digging into the personas and jobs and any other strategic oriented research that we could think of. But it sounds like we may already have a lot of that done.
I mean, we can generate research like, around people administering their GitLab instances and how do they want, what are their jobs to be done, or, basically like CISO and CIO, stuff that's probably for all of our groups out into complete and lovable phases. Like right now we're just seeing the result of one, not having a researcher for 6 months, so we all kind of figured out how to get around that, and two, not having enough resources so that we've got these backlogs that we've got to burn down, and there's no like huge thing that we really want to go into yet, knowing that we have out until the end of the year. But if we're okay on getting research that doesn't need to be acted on immediately, then we can say, fill out some more personas and go down our jobs tree and start filling those gaps. There's plenty of stuff to do, I think. It's just nothing that's relevant to our immediate needs now. Aside from the SBOM, I think that could be huge. And that's probably going to be, it could be a can of worms, because not only we can figure out what that means for the industry, but also what it means for GitLab. Because it's easy to plug in an industry standard into GitLab, but then how it relates to the rest of GitLab is much more difficult.
Okay, I could add the SBOM one into this for sure.
Just do
Any of
SBOM
the-
question mark and then see what happens.
Okay. I mean, that should get him through probably the rest of the year, considering onboarding.
And I would say protect is definitely top priority here, because I don't think y'all have reconfirmed the personas, et cetera, even after you get through that solution validation. So finish off protect first and then roll into the other stuff. And like you said, after onboarding, we're totally at the end of the year at that point. So
Okay, I'll swap these two tables in Adam's issue. So protect is at the top, and then I'll add SBOM as well. And we'll go from there. Hopefully that'll be enough to allow Adam to keep our researcher as part of Scan Protect. That's my biggest concern, because if he keeps thinking that we don't need him, then he'll go somewhere else. We'll still have people to ask questions for. Okay, don't think that'll go away, but it just means we won't have a dedicated researcher for higher strategy oriented stuff. I haven't heard Adam say that, but I know because we already have limited resources. If I was him, that's what I would do. I would move the researcher somewhere else where he's needed. So
I mean, honestly, if you want to give him an impossible project, get us enough CISOs that actually want to review what kind of high level magic single panes of glass that the CISOs want. Like, that's the impossible project that no security company will ever solve. So just put them on that rat reel and start getting ideas and stay busy forever, because hunting CISOs is like next to impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure on how this isn't enough. It seems to me like this is ample work for a quarter, especially if we're really digging in and doing the research well in these areas. But I don't know. I'm not a UX researcher, so maybe they're more efficient at it than I'm imagining.
no, I think these two things are going to be enough, at least for the end of the year. But it also sounds like once these are done, we might not have anything else. That's all I'm concerned about.
Planning out a quarter is already pretty far for me.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
like if you come back and ask me in 2 more months, I might have something else for them that I'm still hoping to have done at the end of the quarter. Like even just planning out to 14.4 is pretty far out, because we're just starting 14.3 now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure we'll have more work.
The problem is, I think, yeah, a lot of us need things closer to. Like, I can't tell you 6 months out, because shit's going to be on fire again and things are going to change. But, if I get a little bit closer, I have the entire risk project, which right now is like, I don't know, people want to know about risk, ? And it probably ties into Matt's, like people want to be able to adjust the internal priority versus the CVSS score priority. And that's going to be a bunch of research and whatnot, but like, I don't want somebody to do it like 9 months before I even can start on it. But when it's like somewhat on the horizon, I need somebody to dig into that. I just don't know when I'm gonna get to that.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
perfect. I'm glad to hear this, and you've assuaged my fears. I'm good.
We've got some big projects out there as well. Like we're looking at having container scanning run independently of pipelines, so it just always runs. You know, how does that work in the UI? What's that whole experience like? I mean, there's a lot to research there. But again, you know, that's not in this next quarter. It's a little bit further out, but come talk to me again when it gets closer.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, all else fails, go to our vision pages and like validate our 3-year strategy
Yeah.
and help us back into where we are now.
Cool. I'm glad we had this talk. I feel much better. Thank you.
Do they know Ruby?
Who?
Then they would be a unicorn.
Just kidding.
All right. We're a couple minutes over. Thank you all. I appreciate it. It's been super helpful. And that's all I got. Have a good rest of your days.